I'm going live. I'm going live. Yes, I'm going live. Am I live? I don't know. Good morning. Um, so I'm just popping on to talk about when I loved myself enough. And I'm hoping there's a few people that might, well, actually, I'm hoping no one can relate to this because that would mean that we all loved ourselves. And wouldn't that be a wonderful world to live in? But don't worry if you don't, because I have a message for you today. Tighten my bunches, because yes, I am a 30-something-year-old woman who still wears her hair in bunches. And what? So I recently wrote a blog post and I would just like to share it with you because I think it has a really powerful insight into what life could look like if you loved yourself enough. So after I left my abusive relationship 11 years ago, I spent the next decade of my life strengthening my relationship to myself, deepening my sense of self-worth, and learning how to love myself. And in this blog post and in this video, I share with you 44 of the incredible gifts that I have received as a result of this journey of self-love. And I really want to drill home to you how loving yourself really is the answer to all of your prayers. So loving yourself is one of those gifts that you didn't know you needed until you received it. It's one of those gifts that just keeps on giving. And whether it just brightens the lens through which you see the world around you, or whether it deepens your appreciation for the small things in life, or whether it simply frees up some of your precious brain capacity and your time so that you can do more things and think better things, then I promise you, you will never ever regret learning to love yourself. So my post is called when I loved myself enough, and I'm just going to read it to you now. So when I loved myself enough, I stopped making plans just so I didn't have to be alone with myself. When I loved myself enough, I said no to things that made me feel uncomfortable or simply because I didn't want to. When I loved myself enough, I started wearing whatever I liked, even if it was weird and wacky. And actually, especially if it was weird and wacky. When I loved myself enough, I started attracting people into my life who were on the same vibe as me. When I loved myself enough, I stopped wearing makeup and threw away all my bras. When I loved myself enough, I ate healthier but stopped beating myself up when I had a treat. When I loved myself enough, I started resting more and without feeling guilty about it. When I loved myself enough, I became more attractive on the inside and the outside. When I loved myself enough, I stopped spending so much time thinking about my appearance, and now I actually have more time to have fun. When I loved myself enough, I started creating a better life for myself. When I loved myself enough, I had more energy. When I loved myself enough, I made better decisions from a place of integrity. When I loved myself enough, I found it easier to stand up for myself. When I loved myself enough, I had more courage in my convictions. When I loved myself enough, I respected myself, and others began to respect me more in return. When I loved myself enough, I listened to myself more and honoured my own needs. When I loved myself enough, the world seemed like a brighter place. When I loved myself enough, I stopped seeking others' approval and started seeking my own. When I loved myself enough, I felt in charge of my own life. When I loved myself enough, I felt a stronger connection to Source. When I loved myself enough, I was perfectly happy being single. When I loved myself enough, I began removing unhealthy things from my life, habits, relationships, beliefs. When I loved myself enough, I bought myself flowers just because. When I loved myself enough, I embraced and even coveted my jiggly bits. When I loved myself enough, I danced to the beat of my own drum. When I loved myself enough, I rescued my own damn self. When I loved myself enough, I stopped making myself small. When I loved myself enough, I stopped settling and went after what I truly wanted. When I loved myself enough, I stopped trying to impress people and instead I sought to impress myself. When I loved myself enough, I learnt to forgive myself and others. When I loved myself enough, I stopped waiting until my pain was unbearable before I addressed it. When I loved myself enough, I was able to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. When I loved myself enough, I became more comfortable in the silence. When I loved myself enough, I made friends with the darkness. When I loved myself enough, I started laughing at my own jokes. Sorry, not sorry. When I loved myself enough, I chose quality over quantity. When I loved myself enough, I began to celebrate myself. When I loved myself enough, I gave myself permission to be imperfect and to make mistakes. When I loved myself enough, I developed strong boundaries. When I loved myself enough, I became comfortable in my own skin. And now I spend a lot of time naked. When I loved myself enough, I started respecting my body. When I loved myself enough, I learned to recognize my own gifts and talents and how I could use them to be of service. When I loved myself enough, I stopped looking externally for answers and began looking internally. And when I loved myself enough, I became the queen of myself. So I hope that's just painted a little picture on what life looks like when you really, really, truly love yourself enough. And I invite you to think about how much of this resonated with you in terms of, do you already have all those things in your life? Or are those things that feel quite far away and you'd actually like to welcome more of in your life? So if you feel like you're embodying a lot of these things, then that's incredible. Well done, you. You should just go away and celebrate that in and of itself. But if you feel like there is a massive gap between where you currently are now and the sort of the life I just described, then I invite you to look at ways in which you can strengthen your relationship with yourself and deepen your sense of self-love. Now, I do have a program that I'm currently running called Radical Self-Love. It starts on Monday, the 1st of March, and doors close this Friday, so you've only got a couple of days left. But if working with me is not something that you're interested in, then there are so many other ways that you can deepen your sense of self-love. I mean, just Google them. Just Google, how to love myself, and you'll come up with loads of suggestions. Just go on YouTube and type in guided meditation for self-love, and there'll be hundreds of them. So there are tons of free ways in which you can find support to loving yourself. But if you need more than just a guided meditation and more than just a blog on Google that sort of gives you step-by steps of how to love yourself, but actually you'll never end up implementing them, because not many people are able to implement things like that without accountability and hand-holding. So if you do want accountability and if you do want hand-holding, then I invite you to take a look at my program. There's only a couple of days left to register for this round. I will be doing another round in a few months' time, but this round is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because it's the first time ever delivering this program. Therefore, it's at a ridiculously low financial investment, whereas next time it will be several times more than it currently is. And the reason why it's at a lower price this time is because I'm asking for more of an energy exchange in terms of feedback and testimonials and reviews at the end of it. So take a look on my website, www.bella-luna.org/self-love, and then you can have a look through the program and the cost. And if the cost is still too much for you, please still send me a message, DM me or email me and just say, hey, I'm really interested in your program, but just can't quite afford that at the moment. And then we can see what we can do. I do have a couple of bursary spots left available. So it's completely up to you if you want to take this step towards your self-love. I encourage you all to take a step towards your self-love, whether that's with me or just by Googling or YouTubing things. But just please, please do something to nurture that relationship with the most important person in your life. So thanks for watching. That's all I've really got for you right now. I just wanted to share with you my blog because I thought it was quite powerful. And I'll drop the links below to the program and to the blog if you want to have a read through my program or the words that I just said in this live. So I hope you all have a lovely day, and much love and infinite blessings from me.